As we continue, we find that the little gnomon, have captured a Sarai. Imagine that. But now what are they going to do with him? Let's find out in chapter 27. The tiny winding halls were cramped, following an irregular circle around this lower level of no home. I barely squeezed through a small opening where the hall narrowed abruptly because of an intruding root. Just beyond the tight passageway was an oval door, curtained by a thick spider web. I broke my way through to a sleeping room only slightly smaller than my own chambers back at the place of homes. Yet somehow it seemed close and confining. Perhaps the knowledge this place was honeycombed with 6 levels of passageways and chambers. Room for 150 gnomon, now crammed to the gills with 350 gnomon, made it seem too small. Earlier, when we had approached the ancient cottonwood that provided a communal root home for the gnomon of 4 generations ago, it seemed vast. The gnomon had outgrown this place and moved to the place of homes with more room for a growing population and a more independent life of root houses for families and individuals. On the other hand, hearing the sounds of the gnomon settling down in crowded quarters, smelling seasoned wood being cut and shaped into new weapons, and seeing passers-by in the hallway looking anxiously at the ancient digging that hollowed out no home, made me appreciate this life of closeness, a strong communal existence. Yet independence and personal freedom were good too. Too bad a sense of freedom and close community weren't always compatible. I darted my candle about, seeking out the rough glassed-in walls. Apparently glassing wasn't as highly developed in those days. Dust and the scent of neglect permeated everything. Even my traveling palate was reluctant to unroll over a floor long abandoned. Behind me I heard Needle-Eye and Nartnose jabbering. Soon they broke their way past the spiderweb and looked around as if I wasn't there. "This'll do fine. Deep enough he couldn't possibly get out once we seal up the shaft." Nartnose pointed to the ceiling as he talked. "So how much longer?" Needle-Eye wondered. "The Sarais must have guessed by now what's up. If they could know the way to the place of homes along to the edge of the forest, they'll find this place too. I swear I don't know how they're doing this. It must nearly kill 'em to be this deep among trees. Still, they've learned the lay of the forest." Nartnose shook his head and stared at his feet. I heard a scratching, thumping sound overhead. As I looked up, dust and broken bits of glass ceiling fell on my face. "Move, Nursite," Needle-Eye warned. "They're digging a shaft down." "Thanks for letting me know. What's this for?" "Oh, yeah. That's what we were going to tell you," Needle-Eye said, embarrassed. "You're sharing your room with me and, the Sarai," Nartnose bellowed. "Come on, Needle-Eye, who you talking to? A boy or an elder?" Boy? I resented that term. They don't send boys off to battle, do they? Nartnose seemed to read my thoughts. "Perhaps young man fits better. Anyhow, Nursite, you gotta sleep light with the Sarai in your room tonight." "May I burn mint incense to kill the odor he's going to make in here?" I asked. "Whatever you like." With that, he stepped back, and I got covered in damp soil, smelling of earthworms. "Sorry about that down there," a voice called from above. In a few minutes, the diagonal shaft was fully opened from the ground level 20 feet up. With a conspicuous lack of ceremony, the fully bound Sarai was dropped down the shaft at the end of the slender rope. Only when he bumped roughly against the shaft wall would he let out a muffled groan. It was hard to imagine what a Sarai raised on the broad open plains would feel like in a place carved out for ones a fraction his size. I thought I felt confined. There he sat, trying to look haughty and dignified with dust and mud all over him, unable to sit up straight. Needle-Eye unwound the rope that had wrapped around him from shoulder to ankle and propped him up against the wall with his hands and feet still tightly bound. A large round rock was lowered into the shaft with rough-cut timbers upended on the floor to support it. This rock effectively closed off the shaft about 2 feet up from the hole in the ceiling. I could hear dirt being piled back in the shaft above it, sealing it against anything but a concerted effort of many gnomon. The Serrohe stared at nothing but the emptiness of his soul. Needle-Eye quickly brought out his glassing incense and soon had the ceiling melting from the power of his chant combined with the incense. As it cooled, it hardened and glossed in smooth contours, suggested by the shape of the shaft. The Serrohe was too lost himself to pay much attention. I somehow felt sorry for him, sealed up alive in a coffin. Morning brought shouts and scurrying footsteps up and down the halls. The Serrohes were outside. Although their entrance into the cramped home was impossible, there was little comfort in that. I climbed up a winding vertical shaft hollowed out of the fat trunk of the cottonwood. It allowed me to emerge into the heights of the tree just above a horizontal branch. Thick foliage provided a protected passage to the outer edges of the tree, where I looked down upon a meadow of daisies and wild iris that surrounded Nohome for a few hundred feet. At the northern, western, and eastern edges of the meadow lurked the Serrohes. Here in this massive tree, we were unapproachable. I joined a small group of guards near the top of the tree and watched as the Serrohe chief dared to approach within shouting distance. From various battle posts in the cottonwood, a small rain of newly made poison-tipped arrows and spears fell, sticking in the ground in front of the chief. "Save your puny ammunition, Gnomon!" Sidewinders hollering reached us, laced with pickled cactus and juniper wine. "We're not crazy enough to attack your stinking tree. We'll simply wait until you can no longer feed yourselves. As you can see," he swept his hand to include the surrounding meadow and forest, "we have plenty of sources of food besides sending a few men back to Il Serrohe. Ha, ha, ha! Enjoy your stay. It'll be your last." He paused dramatically, then added, Unless, of course, you want to reason with us. If you short-sighted idiots know what reasoning is." Ha, ha, ha! He turned his back on us and strode off with a calculated air of ease and detachment. "So what do we do now?" I mumbled to one of the guards huddled with me. "Who knows? Starve, I guess. Better than the desert beyond the steeples." Yeah, I guess. Except I wasn't so sure. Oh boy, now what? Well, we'll find out the next time in chapter 28. Until then, bye.